Hi, and welcome to Benelux Cloud Adventures. For the technical deep dive with Athome Group, I'm here with Remy. Welcome, Remy.
Hi, Sean. It's good to see you here in Luxembourg.
It's great to be here. So before we get started, I want to hear a little bit more about the background for Athome and why you decided to move to AWS.
So I think for this, we need to get a few years back. So basically, I did join Athome Group company 3 years ago. At the time, we had two entities. We had Athome, property portal, and Lux Auto, which is the car one. And me, I did start straight with the COVID. So the first year I did spend at Athome, it was everything remote. And here I could already see a clear pattern we had in the past. Hybrid infrastructure, so we had like on-prem data center kind of way, and we already had some bits and pieces of AWS. And for me, working remotely, it was already way easier to work on AWS. The dashboard, web interface, TLI, way easier than moving to a data center, having to deal with racks and stuff like this. For me, I could see the improvement. And we saw as well the improvement through the year as the entities grew. We had more companies, now we are up to 5, and it was way easier for us to scale.
So Remy, could you walk us through your AWS architecture maybe and explain some of the key components?
Yeah, sure. So I would say the main part is the web part. This is where all our users go to. And here we use the standard approach of using ECS, ECR, so we're using containers for everything. And thanks to this, we're able to scale up and down our infrastructure as per the needs, let's say. So with the COVID, we saw that from months to months, we could have spikes, drops in terms of traffic, and we could adapt thanks to this. While on the old infrastructure, dedicated server, you just buy them and they're there. There's no way to get rid of them. Or if you got like spikes, you need to buy a new one. Here, we just adapt. We pay on an hourly basis, and it's great. It's just so time efficient.
Great to hear. And so I imagine this infrastructure generates a lot of data. So what do you do with all of this data? How do you generate insights?
In the past, we used to deal with CSV file, Excel files, such kind of thing, or old kind of dashboards. And even getting a report could be a lengthy process. Like you ask for a report, by the time you get the data, maybe it's outdated. Maybe you need a new set of data. So we did start to look into Redshift, the data warehouse part of AWS. And what we do now is we do aggregate data from various parts and points, so DB, files, other contents. We do put everything inside Redshift through ETL and ELT. And now we do offer to our staff a small set of data marts that they could query. And the main interest in this is we are confident about the data that we provide to our users and staff. And the idea as well is to improve the way we ship it. In the past, it would take you had a monthly report, let's say. Now we are talking about weekly reports, and we aim to have like daily and even hourly reports thanks to this.
Amazing to hear. So in addition to your data analytics stack, do you also have any plans to bring in, for example, any AI or machine learning as part of your solution?
Yeah, so we did started a few proof of concept, and it's even live now. So for the Lux Auto part, so the car portal, we did set up recognition for 2 aspects. So the first one would be like photo moderation. The nice thing that you want to see now is when you put an ad online, you want to see it, immediately. You don't want to wait for someone to moderate it, saying, okay, you can go forward with it. So we use this service. So when you put a picture, we do check if it's a car. Does it contain stuff that you do not need? Like, is there people on it and such? So it's easier for us to say, okay, it's a valid picture, invalid picture. No one needs to check them one by one, especially on such contents. And the other part is for regulation purposes and stuff like this, anonymity. We do use the recognition feature to blur some part of a car. Here, I'm going to talk about license plates. So in most of the ads that you will see on our portal, license plates will be blurred. In the past, it could be done manually. So the guy, moderator, would have to, open Photoshop, edit it, save it, push it back. But when you are talking about 15 pictures per listing, it can get quite exhaustive for the guy. So now we use recognition to blur automatically those plates, and it takes like seconds.
So with an architecture like this, I imagine there were some challenges bringing it over to AWS. Could you maybe describe some of those?
Yeah, most certainly. Deploying new stuff, it's always easy. You start with code from scratch, whatever. It's easy to implement it to an infrastructure like AWS. One of the main difficulty we did find was moving the legacy. But almost every company has a legacy somewhere. And I was pretty happy to discover the AWS migration services, where basically you just install an agent on a machine that you have. Just press next, few clicks, you see it on your dashboard, and then you're just a few clicks away from deploying it to the cloud. You press one button to sync it. It will do a continuous sync, so you can still have your workload running as expected, do tests for weeks, and then you just press a cutover button, and it's in AWS. It's fantastic.
Amazing, amazing. So in terms of your network then, were there any challenges there?
One of the main challenges that we had is when you define a network, you have to see like in the future, not what you need right now, but what you may need in the future. Because in 3 years, we went from 2 entities to 5. So it has an impact on the network. So this is something that you really need to think of really early in the process. And it's the same like if you need connectivity between them, because we did start with classic VPN. When you do a few point-to-point connection, it's fine. But when you grow, you start to have some kind of mesh network, which can be complex, expensive. And you have some nice solution like Amazon Transit Gateway, which allows you to, reduce the load and improve the efficiency as well.
So on your AWS environment, what kind of enhancements do you see yourselves making in the near future?
So we are putting a lot of effort recently to go through API gateway. So everything almost in our company is APIs. And what we want to do is offload some of the part of the current APIs into API gateway. By this, I mean some security feature like rate limiting. This is stuff that we'd like to get rid of this API, put it into API gateway. It's going to be way easier for developer to focus on the core functionality of this API and put some standardization as well, because one developer may not work the same way as another one, regardless API. And here we would have, let's say, some kind of standards that we could rely on.
Great. And so from a security perspective, is there anything else you'd like to implement there?
Yeah, sure. We are currently looking at the new feature called bot control, which is a part of AWS WAF. And it's a feature basically that will block all bots or even attacks from the outside of your infrastructure, which is pretty good for us. So the idea is any unwanted traffic not there does not even reach your server. So it's really nice, and cost-wise, you don't get the request, so you don't pay for it, which is pretty great. And another feature we're currently looking on is SCP. So the idea is to ensure that one specific account has one purpose and it sticks to it. So with SCP, you can allow or deny regions. You can allow or deny services. And the nice thing is on the organization level. So if for any reason, let's say someone managed to get a root access to this specific account, it can only create the instance which are allowed and on allowed region. Like to give you an example, we've got an AWS identity account. There should be no workload on it. So SCP by default is set to do not allow anything. No EC2, no RDS, no Redshift, no nothing. And that way we're pretty sure that the costs are covered for specific accounts.
Okay, really good. So then in terms of your cost, are you doing anything on that front in terms of enhancements to either bring down your cost or control it a little better?
Yeah, so we have first the manual action of looking through the cost explorer, because it's always nice to have insight of what has changed or not. We have as well the standard alarms, the old-fashioned way, and we're currently looking into the anomaly detection feature from AWS. And the idea is now, instead of just having threshold for an amount of money, AWS can check and learn from your current workload. And if it detects any misbehavior or workloads that should not be there, it will raise an alarm. So it's not only alarms on money, it's alarm on services. So just going back to this identity account I was talking about, should not have RDS on it. So the machine learning part should learn this and raise an alert if it sees something like this, not just the money part of it.
Cool, good to hear. And so if you had a time machine, or if you could just go back, do everything all over again, is there anything you would change? What would you do differently?
Yeah, so the main point would be just get in contact with your AWS partner solution architect as soon as you can. Even if it's just an idea in your head, they can offer like a lot of services, because when we went for this data part, by default, we are looking at services on the dashboard of AWS. We said, this one looks nice. And this is where our technical account manager told us like, hey, maybe you've got a better option over there and it's cheaper. So it's really great to have those insights.
If you had involved a partner or a solutions architect or account manager earlier, what do you think you would have done differently in your initial setup?
One of the main advantage would be to be a little bit more aware of the new services, new features, because they for sure the stuff that exists we are maybe not aware yet, and even new features. So like Session Manager from AWS, 2 years ago they were not going to use it because it had some limitation, assigning only to public IP EC2 instance, or you can access it only through the web interface. So for us, it was a no-go 2 years ago. And we did set it up 6 months ago because they do offer a lot of new features. You can assign it to private IP instances, can connect through it to the AWS API CLI. So it's big stuff for us. So it's not only new service, it's new feature. And as well regarding the pricing, you've got as well the new generations of instances. So just switching from, let's say, an instance which is M3 to M5, you can already save up to 30% of the hourly fees.
All right, well, I think that brings us near enough the end, but before we go, do you have anything else you'd like to add or any advice you would give to anyone watching?
Yeah, so sure. I mean, for me, at AWS and all the technical part, it's not only at work, it's some things that I do follow on the social networks, for example. Me, I'm a big Twitter fan, and I do like to follow, like, for example, Jeff Barr, Laura J. Hyatt. I mean, I'm pretty sure we find an AWS solution architect, technical account manager on those networks, which would interest you on some very specific topics. Us, we are working on data, auto-scaling groups, stuff like that. I'm pretty sure we find someone to follow. And the other part is, so far, every reInvent session I was not able to attend because I was either on holiday or too busy. So I really hope that for the next one, I'll be there to attend this one.
Well, I hope so too. Thank you very much, Remy. It was great speaking to you, and hope to speak to you again soon.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.